The Jewish community that I grew up in was centered around the Peretz School because these were my father's friends, my parents' friends, and that's who we socialized with. The school had classes every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, after school for the kids. Friday, we would meet and do songs in Yiddish and Hebrew. Sunday, there was also a Sunday school class. So kids basically could go almost every day of the week except on Saturday, on Shabbat. And different days were different topics. One day would be Yiddish language. Another day would be history. Another day might be current events. And we were taught, when we were taught Hebrew, we were taught it in Yiddish. We would get vocabulary lists from Yiddish to Hebrew. So, for example, there was one word that, or phrase in Hebrew that I remember clearly, bechol zot, and the translation in Yiddish is von deswegen, nevertheless. So it's engraved in my head, and why I remember that particular phrase, I have no clue. But it was a mouthful, but I memorized it. But that's how we learned Hebrew. And when we first learned Hebrew, we learned it more in the Ashkenazic style, where instead of the taf, it would be the s sound, and instead of Torah, it would be Torah. But soon after, as Hebrew grew in Israel, we switched to the Sephardic pronunciation of the Hebrew. Now, I know we're talking about Yiddish here, but it also impacted on how the vocabulary list was still the same. It was still, one side was Yiddish, and the other side was Hebrew, as we learned new words every week. In terms of Jewish content, it would be the history of the Jewish people, culture, holidays. It wasn't given any particular religious slant. Things were less strident then in terms of, are you ultra-Orthodox, Orthodox, conservative, reform? There were very few synagogues in Windsor. So the education in the Peretz School was more of a cultural approach to Yiddishkeit, to Jewish living, based around the holidays, and of course the prayers that went with the holidays that were traditional. And history was very much part of it. We also learned the Bible. We would learn Tanakh, but on a simpler level. We weren't studying it to daven, to pray. We were studying it to learn about Tanakh, almost as if it were the history. We weren't really taught that it was the Word of God, but as a storyline. And if people wanted religion, they would then go to a synagogue.